Welcome to another edition of the Real Energy Podcast. Today we're going to get into an interesting topic. So we've done a few episodes so far. We've gone into anxiety and depression. We've gone into a lot of different topics. So Stephanie brought up a few weeks ago that she visited a hypnotherapist and kind of, expanded on that a little bit. So, I thought it was very interesting, and I was like, hey, why don't we have her hypnotherapist on the episode today? So joining us today is Mike Pierce from Energy of Healing. Mike, say hello to the people and introduce yourself.
It's actually Energy of Being.
Energy of Being, damn it.
That's my fault. I wrote it down wrong.
Yeah, she wrote it down wrong. Tay, her.
Energy of Being and Healing Hypnotics. But anyway, thank you for allowing me to be here. It's fantastic.
Thank you for coming.
Absolutely.
So, I was trying to do some research on this stuff, and I actually didn't get a chance yesterday to kind of, do some researching on, what we're going to be talking about today. So I thought a good lead into this episode is let's talk about what is hypnotherapy. Like, what is it? Everybody's seen, hypnotists. They're on stage. They're like, watch the watch, 1, 2, 3, you're going to. And then they make these people do these ridiculous things, right? That's not what we're talking about, right, Mike?
That's not what we're talking about now. That is a thing. Hollywood has kind of ruined it for a lot of people that may be interested in hypnosis because they've got this grandiose scheme and this thought process that they can hypnotize somebody to go rob a bank or hypnotize somebody to go do whatever it is that they want them to do. And the interesting thing about it is you can't change somebody's core beliefs, right? So if I were just say Stephanie, if I were to work with Stephanie, hypnotize her, take her down into trance, work with her and tell her, okay, when you're out, you're going to go rob this bank for me. You're going to put the money over here. That's just not going to happen.
Well, she's a bad example because she would.
She's gangster.
So again, can't change core values. If that's what she wanted to do, then she would absolutely do it.
So let's talk about it a little bit. So when we're talking about hypnotherapy, are we getting into an area where we're going into like the subconscious? What are we talking about here, Steph?
So my experience in hypnotherapy with Mike was, that's how I would describe it. I would describe it as, Mike and I had this we had a conversation, and through him doing relaxation techniques with me, just really talk therapy and relaxation techniques with me, he was able to get me to a point where I was in a relaxed state of.
What is talk therapy?
Literally, like, there was no swinging watch. It was just his voice, me listening to his instruction of relaxation. And if memory serves me, it started with my toes, and we kind of worked up, my body. We relaxed my entire body. Just, him verbally telling me and me mentally making the commitment to listen to what he was saying. And before I knew it, he was waking me up.
So, Mike, talk about that. So how do we? Okay, I'm coming in blind. All right.
Okay.
Yeah, I am a new client. You've never met me before. I was introduced to you by, someone else. Talk to me. What how do you do it? What is it? What's involved?
So, actually, okay. Let me say this. It's going to be different for everybody. I'm going to use certain techniques for Stephanie. I would use maybe the same, or it could be different techniques for you. Same thing with Tanya. Whatever it is. So, it's a matter of understanding who you're working with. But to give you a quick understanding of what actually hypnosis is, we are all in hypnosis at least twice a day, and a lot more than that you don't even realize, right? So when you wake up in the morning, you're a little groggy and you're not quite wide awake yet. You're in hypnosis. You're in the trance state. Same thing when you go to bed at night. You go to bed, you lay down, you close your eyes, your breathing starts to relax, and then all of a sudden you have thoughts that you don't know where they came from, and then you're gone.
So is it how does the dream world, relate to that? So
explain that question.
Like, say you're saying that when we're going to bed, we're kind of in a hypnosis state. So when we're dreaming, are we in like a hypnosis state when we're dreaming?
Oh, I tell you what. Let me explain it like this. So we operate at a certain frequency, right? So you've heard of delta, which is deep sleep, right? Okay, that's anywhere from 0 to 4 hertz. Okay, and then that's your deep sleep. So you're not getting much out of that. I mean, other than the rest that you truly need. And then you have anywhere from 4 to 8 hertz, where your body, physical, mind, all that working together. That is theta. And the very cool thing about theta is that's where children live. I mean, you ever notice how children absolutely absorb everything?
Yes.
That's where they live. So anywhere 6 months to 6 to 7 years old, they remain in theta. And then they move on. But right now, if we were to all just close our eyes and just take a couple deep breaths, you'd automatically be in alpha. So alpha is anywhere from 8 to 12 hertz. And then above that, where we are right now, we're in beta. So we are sitting in 12 to 30, 40 hertz, and above that's gamma. So what we're doing is there's a lot of different ways of getting there. We can go through, and I can just speak and take somebody there gently and easily. And what I want to do is I want to take them down to theta.
Now, I'm going to tell y'all, I've been told by the two people that have had, this session, Tanya and Stephanie, I'm going to give this warning. Please do not listen to this while you're driving, because might put you in a state of trance.
Yeah, that's legit.
And it's not just a boring thing. I hope that's not what it is.
Absolutely not.
First of all, his voice is soothing. Listen to it.
There's. I'm not doing that right now because people may be listening. But yeah, just through the voice and how you use your voice. And
so how did you get in? How'd you get into this?
Probably between 10, 15 years ago, I was going through life event, divorce, separation, and I didn't understand myself, nor did I understand what everybody else around me was doing. I was very confused, and so I dove into psychology, trying to help figure out why is this person doing that? Why am I doing this? What's going on here? What's going on there? And then the more I dug into it, I found hypnosis, right? And I absolutely fell in love with it because I realized using hypnosis, I could help people.
So when you were going through your life event and you wanted to find a deeper meaning, what was the difference between what you studied in hypnosis and going to like traditionals, therapy, like a psychiatrist or a life coach or something like that?
Okay. So I'm also a life coach / I don't prefer life coach. I prefer energy coach, because to me, everything comes around to just being energy. So when we get our energy where we are, everything just works. To answer your question, it's a matter of being able to come to my own conclusion, right? A lot of times when you're reading books, you're going through and you're listening and you're watching and you're understanding somebody else's perspective. And then you watch a movie and you're picking up somebody else's perspective. And you're going this route and you're picking up somebody's perspective. Yep. So if I were to take and I were to go down one avenue, that would be my perspective. And that's not the way I work. I want to be able to understand a full depth of how a lot of different things work together. I'm a little bit of an efficiency nerd. Mm-hmm. So the more you know, the easier it is to get things done.
So you said that when you get a new client, right, we're trying to figure out, so how do you figure out what technique? You've never met me before. I'm coming to you. Mm-hmm. How do you figure out what technique is going to be efficient for that person or to get that person in the state that you need to achieve? Well, okay. What's the goal?
I think that's fair.
What's the goal? What's the goal of hypnotherapy?
The goal is to give whoever comes to see me what they want.
The goal is different. The goal is different for everybody.
Right. Yeah.
Like my goal for hypnotherapy is going to be completely different than your goal. It's definitely different than Tanya's goal.
What was your goal?
Yeah.
My goal for hypnotherapy, primarily, when mine and Mike's conversation initially started, it was literally over hip pain. I was having serious pain in my hip. And he started asking me, questions about which side of my body the pain was coming from. It was left or right. And in Chinese medicine, I believe it was. Traditional Chinese medicine says that, when you experience pain on the left side of your body, it's usually a spiritual situation rather than an actual physical situation.
Well, that may not be tied to traditional Chinese medicine. It's just been noticed in the pattern has been, and I've never known it to be wrong. So I can't say that that's tied directly to traditional Chinese medicine. Some of the other stuff I do definitely is, though.
Right. So we had this conversation, and that's where it started. But because my session was when our initial conversation started compared to when I actually had my therapy session, there was like 6 weeks in between. So Mike and I see each other on a weekly basis. He's a regular at my pub. I see him all the time. And we were having these evolving conversations every week that he would come in about what exactly it was that I wanted to work on. I've been going through, my own things. Like we all have everyday life stuff that we go through. And I was going through my own personal issues at the time, that I was emotionally kind of struggling with. And through conversations with Mike, I really kind of started to narrow down specifics other than just the hip pain, the physical thing that I was going in there for. I started to narrow down emotionally what I wanted to go through, and I was really interested in my past life because I believe in reincarnation, and I was, really curious about, my past lives, and, because if you believe in reincarnation, you kind of bring things from each life cycle that you've gone through into your current. And so I just kind of wanted a better gauge of understanding of like where I was in my life cycles and, what I had been through, what I was bringing in this life and the lessons, trying to get more clarity on the lessons.
How many lives have you had, do you know?
Mike and I only got through 2. We got through 2.
It's hard to say. It could be hundreds.
Yeah.
It could be the very first one. It's all going to depend on the person.
Was there a reason why you guys only went through 2, or was that just how far back you can go?
No, the reason we only went through 2 is because they were short, and it allowed me to be able to go from one to the other. If I keep somebody down for too long, then it becomes a challenge for them to come out and drive home and do what they need to do. So we've got like an hour and a half, 2-hour window, right? And that includes the induction, taking everybody down, and then getting all the information we need, and then bringing them back out.
That leads me to a really, really good question. How do you use this information? Is this information for your use or for her use or your patient's use?
It's for whoever I'm working with.
So it's real. So is it to get them to a place of understanding about who they are, and
exactly.
So are you like, say we did a session like, in January, and then I come back in August. Is that too far of a time span for you to piece these two things together? No. So let me do this real quick. I want to hit on Stephanie's hip pain, please.
Right. Yeah. So we were sitting here having a conversation. She was about as far as she is away from me right now. We're having a conversation. We're talking. She tells me about the pain. I give her a couple of little explanations, and we dive in and we find the source of the problem. And if you remember correctly, you weren't even in hypnosis. And as soon as you get to the source of where the issue comes from, it's gone. So everything, all the physical ailments are just warning signs saying, hey, you've got this going on. Something's happening. If it's in your legs, you're not moving in the right direction. Anything from your hips down, your hips, your knees, your feet, your ankles, whatever it is, if you're experiencing pain in there, especially if it's arthritis-like, then you're not moving in a direction you need to head in. And as soon as you figure out what direction
what does that mean? What do you mean not moving in a direction?
In life.
In life.
Okay.
In life.
Right. So you still have, Stephanie, you still have your hip pain, right?
My hip pain went away for a solid 4 or 5 weeks. I was without it completely. It has returned. However, I understand that just hypnotherapy, just like any other therapy, it's going to take a couple of times. And not to mention what Mike said, the reason that we came to believe that I was having this pain was because I was not moving in the right direction, nor was I doing it fast enough, because it kept getting I was trying to move and get out of.
Move in the right direction physically or emotionally?
Both. And because, you know, I was living with my son. I had moved out of my apartment. I was living with my son for a little while. And being there, it was really kind of clouding me a little bit. I didn't have the freedom. My thoughts weren't really aligned with where I needed them to be spiritually. And I kept dragging my feet moving. And the longer that happened, the worse my pain kept getting. Like, it went away when I made the decision, like, this is when I'm doing it. I'm doing it, you know, this, that, and the other. The pain went away. And then the minute I started dragging my feet, the pain returned. Now that I've moved, I'm getting situated. I was just telling you this morning on the way here, like, today's the first day. I have not had pain. I haven't needed to take any medicine for it. I haven't needed to put a patch on. Today's the first day. And it's been about 10 days since I've been in my new house.
So going back to, you know, because I already know, you know, I am not a skeptic, right? But I can
Yes,
hear
you are.
I can hear some of the questions that people are going to be asking themselves when they're listening to this episode.
Right.
Why hypnosis versus traditional medicine?
Oh, can I step in on that? So I've had traditional therapy. I've had traditional therapy before for different reasons, just because I needed somebody to talk to, and it's fine. But you know, and now I've done this, so I have definitely a different viewpoint of it. I mean, so I only had one session, obviously, so I feel better today, and I can't with traditional. I think it takes a much longer time to see the outcome, or to even see the silver lining, so to speak. You know, you have to go to not a physical therapist, but physically go to a person weekly or whatever time period you have to go to for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, or whatever, to see any type of, to see a change, if that makes sense. Do you know what I mean?
So you had your thing yesterday.
Yeah, I had it yesterday, and I feel better today. So, you know, I've gone to a traditional therapist before, years ago, and it took weeks and weeks and weeks and weeks, and I can't say that I felt as good as I do feel today.
Well, and let me jump in on that, because there's a couple different things going on, right? So I think to answer your question, were you speaking specifically of medical, or where were you? What direction were you coming from?
I'm playing devil's advocate here. So, you know, if there's a listener thinking, okay, I've got some issues, do I go see a hypnotherapist for this, or do I go see somebody with traditional medicine? Now, most people are going to...
Well, by traditional medicine, do you mean like a psychotherapist?
Psychiatrist.
Or do you mean like a physical therapist or a
psychiatrist, right? Because when you have physical ailments, or you have an emotional issue, you head to your doctor, and, you know, they either prescribe you some kind of medicine or something like that. You found you know, hypnotherapy when you were going through your, you know, so I guess going back to my original question, why hypnotherapy rather than, you know, the traditional path of let's go to a therapist, you know, like a doctor or something like that?
Okay. So I'm going to come at it from two different angles here, right? Let's talk about psychiatrist, psychologist, whichever you want to say, your therapist. They absolutely have their place. I can't speak to that because that's not the realm I'm in. There are some life coaches out there, and they are very beneficial. I've got somebody that is very close to me that we've been working together for a long time, and she actually was going to see, she had a therapist that every Tuesday, she would get on the phone, have a meeting with the therapist, and it was every other Tuesday, then it was once a month. And in the background, she and I are working on some stuff. And I'm not taking away from who they are and what they do, because they absolutely play a role. So even with all of the healing that has occurred with the person that I'm speaking of, it's my wife. So even with all the healing that's occurred with her, she still calls her therapist once a month. She still has it because she likes her. Mm. And you know what? She's not me. So if she can have a conversation with somebody, and whether she's looking for healing or not, just having conversation and being able to speak your truth without any thought of judgment, that's going to help, right?
Yeah.
So same thing goes with medical doctors, right? And You know what? I'm not even going to use that word. So, but you have medical doctors out there that do what they do. They prescribe medicine. Medicine is just, it's toxic to the body. I don't care what medicine you are on. If you go to any pharmacy and you pick up something that is for anything in particular, you're literally putting toxins in your body. Now, it may help for a little bit, but if you think about it, look at any commercial that you see for any medication that you may take and tell me how long the disclaimer is at the end.
Yep.
You might suffer from fatigue. You might get dizzy. You might have anal leakage. You may have this.
He said anal leakage.
It's on. Listen to
the
it.
side effects are the side effects are worse than the.
I've heard
definitely
anal
outweigh.
I've heard anal leakage a lot in a lot of meds.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh God.
So I want to answer your question. Okay. And I just, you and I just talked about this morning on the way here. I think that for me, this therapy worked so much better because, so we can all agree universally, I think that we only use 10% of our brain capacity, right? For on any given day, at any given time, 10%.
I'm like at 8.
Yeah. So 8.5. So when you are doing hypnotherapy, you're literally playing in the subconscious part of your brain, not the conscious part, right? So we have the ability to heal ourselves.
Absolutely.
Through your subconscious, which has, I think, a deeper level of control over the rest of your body. You have the ability to heal yourself through that, given the fact that we're only using 10% of our brains. If you can have a tour guide to help you through the subconscious so that you can tap into those resources and actually heal yourself, that is so much more profound to your body than being in the conscious with another person. Not to say that talk therapy for people does not work. I participated in it for almost 30 years. It does have its valid points. But that's in the conscious. You're not really getting to the root of the issue, you know?
It takes longer to get to the root.
And there are so many internal monologues going on in your conscience, right? That play a factor in your therapy, right? So your therapist is telling you all the right things. Your therapist is saying, you know, these are the things that you really need to focus on. These are your distractions. You know, these are the parts that we need to really delve into to let go so that you can be a better person. And you're hearing this in your conscience and you're like, yeah, that all sounds great. But then there's those internal monologues that are also going on at the same time in your conscience that are battling. Well, he could be full of shit. You know, I don't know if I can have that conversation with, you know, person A because, you know, X is going to be the result. And I don't want to hurt anybody. This is my problem. I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings because I'm a people pleaser. You know, but when you eliminate all of that in the conscience and just go into the subconscious, it's you healing yourself. It is only you. That has a profound effect on the body. That was my experience.
Tanya did her session yesterday, and you know, part of, man, when we, you know, Haran and I and Keith, and when we all got together and we said, hey, you know, let's start a podcast and, you know, let's start talking because, you know, I got a lot of stuff to say. Everybody's got a lot of stuff to say. You know, I personally started my journey, my healing journey, probably about 10 years ago. Now, I didn't seek any therapy. I did read a lot. But when Tanya was talking about, you know, okay, she's going to go and see Mike, where should I start? She has no idea where to start. So I gave some insights from my experience because I believe what happens in the past, childhood or even past lives, is what's ailing now. So if you focus on the now, personally, I don't think you're going to heal yourself because you're dealing with the symptom, not the cause, right? So I told Tanya, I said, hey, listen, you know, me personally, you know, take it back to Noah's Ark. So talk about, you know, talk about your experience yesterday.
Okay, so obviously I met Mike through Stephanie, and I spoke to him. What was it? Maybe like a week or two ago, on the phone. Great voice, and I text messaged Steph, and I was like, I love his voice. It's awesome. So I already liked him from the beginning.
Don't get anybody to start sleeping, bro.
So we met at his place yesterday in Warrington, just in case anybody's curious. The place is awesome. I walked in. The first thing I noticed was the smell. Mm-hmm. And
He's got an aromatherapy in there.
Yeah, but it was. I was like, "What's that smell?" And he's like, "Wait." He was like, I don't know. He's like, there's a lot of different things, but whatever the smell was very inviting for me. And I'm very conscious of smells. It's like I'm very conscious of them. So I was already invested based on the smell of walking in there. So, but everything was like it's very comfortable. I don't know how to explain it, but I just felt very comfortable immediately. So we sat down, we talked, and he asked me about, my life, like, just general things like how many siblings, how you grew up and all that good stuff. So it's just like sitting around talking to a friend, literally. I don't know how long we did that. I felt like I was only there for like an hour, but apparently I was there for like 5 hours.
How long was the session yesterday?
About 5 hours.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Yeah, but it only felt like a good hour or so.
But in your mind, when you went under, you felt
it was like 15 minutes. But he asked me, he's like, "How long do you think you've been under?" I was like, "I don't know, like 15 minutes." He was like, "No, it's been like, what was it 2.5 hours?"
2 hours.
Like 2 hours, and I was like, "What?" I was like, "No way!" It literally felt like 15 minutes.
So part of that, when you're in that session, is that first couple hours, you're just really trying to get to know her as a person. Okay.
Absolutely.
But it was so it's more than that. Well, yeah, it's getting to know you, but it was more than that. So we did what was that thing with the thumb? What is that? I don't know what it's called.
Whoa. Thumb. Whoa. What are we doing, Mike? What are you doing here,
sexual.
Cut the camera.
Mike's talking about thumbs. I'm like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, why don't you just show us?
We don't have the equipment here, Haran.
Oh, the thumb. Okay, so
I don't know what it's called.
So whoever comes to visit me, it's all going to be different, right? I wish I could tell you the exact formula, but it just comes from experience. Depends on who I'm talking to. I will do this action. I will do this action. I will move here. I will say that. It just kind of starts to flow as you move forward. But what Tanya's talking about is there's multiple energy fields around our body. So if you think that the physical is all we have, well, what happens when you start to think about the emotional energy field around you? And then you have a mental energy field around you, your intellect. And then you have a spiritual, which is not necessarily religious, but it is what you're open to, right? So I actually have a device that measures this. They used to call it back in the day, probably 60s, 70s, 80s, 70s, 80s. It was Kirlian photography or aura photography, where they had a piece of glass and they would treat it and they would put some electric, missing a word, but something that had electricity behind it, and you put your hand on it and it took a picture and it would show the different energies around your body. They resonate at different colors.
It's
right?
Awesome. Let me just say that.
So
you were awake when this was happening?
No, yeah, this is
absolutely.
this is before any of that.
Okay.
This is like pre that. But so it shows you your energy, and it's so awesome. It's got all this different stuff. So it showed my chakras, and they were misaligned.
Stop.
I knew
so
he was
that
gonna
was
do this.
that was one of my words that I needed to look up.
Okay, wait a minute. Let her finish this, and then we can do that.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's more to it.
Yeah.
So there's different things. It reads different things. So it showed your chakras, and it did the energy part, and the one of the most interesting parts for me. I don't know I'm going to describe it in my way, so you might have to clarify what I'm saying. But it showed like the energy points, things that your body is putting more energy towards. So you all know that I had my thyroid out last year. So part of it was my body is pulling more energy towards my thyroid area, which makes perfect sense because I don't have a thyroid. Right. Mm-hmm. So it was interesting that, and it was some other, my liver, I think was the other part. So I'm going to have to work on that.
This is the machine pointing your energy field out.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes. But it made sense. But it was like for the thyroid area, it was like really pronounced, which makes perfect sense. I don't have a thyroid, so my body would have to work harder. I have medication that mimics what my thyroid is supposed to do. Right. So I was like, oh, that's really interesting.
Real quick. So is there a baseline that it measures and then it goes up and down or positive and negative? I'm an electronics guy, so I just saw, I'm just picturing this machine like what it is, you know what I mean?
You could use the word baseline. So what it is, you mind if I jump in here?
No.
Perfect. All right. So what it does is, this is the part that Stephanie was talking about earlier. It uses traditional Chinese medicine. So each part of your fingertip is associated with an organ or an organ system.
Okay.
Right. So what we do is, it's just a little box, and it's got a little hole or a filter in there that keeps all the light out. You start with your thumb, and I take a picture, and then your finger, and you go through all your fingers on both hands, and it shows the energy around it. And then I move forward with that, and then it will show the energy fields. It has different colors for all the energy fields, right? So first thing I do, the first screen that pops up just shows me, it can tell me if you're having a problem with your cardiovascular, or it points out the different areas. Mm-hmm. The first thing I do after that, though, is I go directly to chakras, and we'll get to that in just a second. But quick on chakras. Chakras are simply energy centers in your body. There's 7 of them, right? So with that, if your
can you tell us what they are? Can anybody?
Yeah,
he can tell me what they are.
Okay.
So you've got the root, which is down at the base, and there's 7. It starts at the perineum, down at the very bottom of your tailbone, and it works its way up. You come up just above the pelvic. You've got the sacral, and then just below the navel, you have the solar plexus, and then you have the heart, throat, third eye, and the crown. So when one of these is out of alignment, we'll just use heart, right? Because that's something that everybody has and everybody can understand. When you're ailing, when you're really pining for somebody, or you're looking for an external source for love, it's going to show me the energy center is all the way to the right-hand side, right? And it will also tell me the size of it. So what we're looking for is, this was developed overseas, so they use different metrics. This is based on joules. It's a measurement of energy. And so we want to be anywhere between 4 and 6. If you're really, really, really looking outside for all of your love, it's going to be all the way to the right. So the right-hand side is the masculine side. The left-hand side is the feminine side. It's not sexual. It's nothing like that. It's just extroverted, introverted. So looking outside, or if you're totally reserved and not accepting, and you're just keeping it very much an introvert, it's going to be all the way on the left-hand side. So what we want is, it's a straight line down the picture. It's a picture, it's a representative that shows you what's going on. To me, it's 6 o'clock, right? So if you just use hot and cold, right? So let's just put hot at however you're looking at me, 9 o'clock, cold at 3 o'clock. What you want is 6 o'clock, because both of these are very uncomfortable.
You want a balance.
You want a balance.
You want a balance.
Have you ever had a client with perfectly aligned chakras?
No.
Interesting.
Because is there such a thing?
When you go to the gurus, I would say probably. I haven't had a chance to measure them.
I was so entertained by my chakra picture. I couldn't stop laughing because my chakras look schizophrenic. They're like ding, ping, ping.
That tracks.
I mean, it is. They're all over the place. Were yours like that? Or were
not
yours?
so much.
She rocked it out.
Really?
Yeah, there were.
I need a lot of work.
So,
You got a lot of demons.
I got a lot of work.
I could go by the colors. I don't know what they were.
So
my solar plex was off a little bit. Well, that was the worst one, I think, the yellow one. Mm-hmm. My heart was off a little bit.
You really dialed it in, though.
Yeah, after we did it the second time, it was better.
Yeah.
But my throat was off a little bit, and I think that was it. The rest of them were pretty much balanced.
Yeah.
So that awesome. It leads me to ask a couple questions, and I want to ask.
Can I touch base on that again?
Please.
Okay, so there was 2 of them that were out of alignment. She actually, so we went through, did the first one, and they were scattered, and then got her to do a few exercises to get the energy flowing through the body. Came back, did it again, and it really tightened up, and it looked really good. Interesting thing is, her solar plexus was out just a little bit, as was her throat. So, not to get into too much detail about it, but you've already mentioned her liver was showing excess energy. So this device not only shows me the chakra alignment, shows me the size, it also tells me how much energy is going to each organ.
Man, I'm just curious why traditional medicine doesn't use this.
You mean why regular medicine doesn't
Western
use
medicine?
Western medicine. Why wouldn't they use this?
Exactly.
Big
Pharma's not going to make money off of this.
Because I mean,
it's all about money.
That kind of leads me. So it leads me to ask a question, because when you talk about the chakra and the points and stuff like that, how does this relate to like acupuncture?
I cannot speak to that.
Okay.
I am a firm believer in acupuncture because I have a general basic idea of how it works, but I can't really speak to it because I don't have a background in it.
It's probably similar to like reflexology, because reflexology is sort of like what you were describing with the, I forgot what you called it, with the thumb thing, because reflexology,
It's all energy healing. Right,
yeah,
basically.
but like how he's saying that each one of your fingers has a responsibility to another part of your body. That's what reflexology is. So they like massage different parts of your feet or whatever, and it will.
I love the feet one.
And it fixes. It's supposed to balance, fix whatever, or activate other like organs or parts of your body. So it makes perfect sense. It's all kind of like the same, like different aspects of the same thing.
So it leads me to ask a question, because we were having this chat. We have a chat group that we throw a bunch of nonsense at each other. So Haran asked a question yesterday that I thought was interesting.
After Tanya's session.
After Tanya's session. And he was like, did it work?
Did it work? Like basically, like, are you cured? Did it work?
Are you cured? So what were you thinking when you were asking that question? Because I wanted to answer you, and I was gonna be like, I don't think that's how it works, bro.
Well, I mean, when I asked that, I still don't know why she went there, so I don't know if it worked or not.
Gotcha.
And also, I believe, like he was saying with the chakra and your balance in your body, you have to have a balance in your journey in life as well, right? So if you don't, I think the Buddha said it once, that there's 3 paths in life. You have your left and your right and then your middle, right? Your left could be very tense. Your right could be very loose, but the whole goal is to find the middle path.
Sacred spot.
Right. So with hers, she was trying to figure out, I don't know what was going on, but with your body, you got to figure that out. And then you got to align both your journey and your body at the same time to have that path that you're really looking for. So I don't know why I said that. I was just kind of joking around.
I thought that you were kind of a skeptic on this.
Not at all.
Because you believe in reincarnation.
Absolutely.
and all that kind of stuff.
Absolutely.
You want to speak on that a little bit?
I mean, I
Or ask questions.
I mean, I believe in reincarnation. What I want to know is, how do you tie the previous life to what's going on today?
You know what? Thank you for that
That's
question.
a great question.
So, let's say, just hypothetically speaking, you and I are here today, and we learn a lesson. We go to bed. We wake up tomorrow. We do it again. We learn another lesson. And each lesson from each day before builds.
Mm-hmm.
And what we are all looking for, or where the most pleasurable place and the best place for us to be, is love. It's true love, right? And that doesn't mean pining for somebody. That doesn't mean sexual. That doesn't mean relationship. That doesn't mean. What that does mean is a true, beautiful energy. Okay? So we learn something Monday. We learn something Tuesday. We learn something Wednesday. So it's just like you're going to a training class for a week. Every day you learn something new. And by the end of the week, you're in a much better spot. You have a much better understanding. And it's easier for you to move forward.
Right. Yeah.
Time space is irrelevant. So a day versus a life, it's the same thing.
And you can take what you've learned today into your next life, right?
Absolutely.
So I mean, I believe that the soul gathers information, like in the previous life, right? Like I think I was telling Tanya before, like how do you, when you meet somebody that knows how to really play the guitar, how do you know that they weren't really a musician
Jimi Hendrix in their past
in
life.
the previous life, right?
Yeah.
Because your soul inherits, certain muscle memories and certain things that you can't really explain.
Mm-hmm.
So in order, you're making every life better, right? Because you don't know when this journey is going to end. We're all internal beings, and our body serves as a vessel. So we just never know when this ends. So I guess you gotta do your best every time.
Well, it's going to end when you finally reach love.
You think
Nirvana? And it's not necessarily ending. The learning experience will end when you reach love. However, you will be tasked with helping other people find the same thing.
Will this shit never end, you guys? Oh my
Patrick,
God.
That would be the guardian angels.
Patrick, that's my answer for your question last week. For me,
Okay.
what he just said. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Okay, that's my answer.
Okay.
That's what I'm here to help.
I have a question for Mike. Have you ever met someone that you didn't see their aura? And I'll tell you why I'm asking this question. So most of our listeners know that I'm originally Hungarian, right? And so Hungarians are crazy in a really cool way. And so my parents' friends, like one of my dad's cousins is really into all like the earth energy. You know, he's got the little triangles that block the negative electronic energy that comes from all this stuff, right? So then my dad's best friend, so after my mom passed away, she was like 58. I was like 29 when she died. So, you know, she was fairly young. And I was in Hungary and he's like, I can't see your aura. Like, what's going on? This is so crazy. Like, I can't get a feel for your aura. And I was wondering if either there are people with no auras or sometimes, like, do you lose aura if you've been, like, experiencing something traumatic? Also, sometimes I think I'm an alien here to experience the earth for the aliens.
That may not, honestly, that may not be far off at all. I mean, that's actually an option.
I know that sounds crazy,
This is why I
listeners.
love Mike.
Just bear with me.
This is literally why I love you.
You may not be off at all right there. So as far as seeing people's auras, I have certain ways that I work, right? So I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with it or you're familiar with VAK.
Nope.
No.
I have no idea what it stands for.
Okay. Visual, auditory, kinesthetic. So they're
simple.
Yeah. So they are now pushing this in schools finally. It's taken a long time, but it's getting into schools. So somebody that's visual, when you see something, you know it. It's instant. Hey, I got that. Oh, I know exactly what that is. I'm over here thinking. And then you've got somebody that is auditory, right?
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
So if you're sitting here, somebody may have some auditory skills, and they learn and communicate and pick up information through sounds, talking, or anything else.
So back in the day because we're all Gen Xers, they called this the gifted class. It did not mean that you were smarter than the other kids. You have a different way of processing information. I was in gifted classes because I am not an auditory learner. I am a visual learner.
And I'm an audio-visual learner.
You have to show me once. You will never have to show me again. But if you verbally tell me, I am not going to get it.
Right.
I'm not going to get it.
Yeah.
And then you have the third kind. I mean, these are the main three. Third kind, kinesthetic. We feel.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh.
You learn by doing. You learn by action.
Oh.
You learn by
I'm all
feeling.
those. Okay.
So yeah, it's not, you're not hard pressed and say, I'm a visual learner. Some people are more of a visual learner than they are the others. Same thing with auditory. Same thing with kinesthetic. However, you do have some people where they meet in the middle, and those are the people that are just phenomenal, but because they can communicate with everybody and they feel it all.
Huh.
So
You just have to understand it and learn it and move forward through that.
So, I kind of want to go back to something.
Okay.
I think we touched on something that wasn't touched on ever before. So you're an alien.
Okay, no. So I don't know. I don't. Maybe.
She said, I don't
Okay,
know.
talk about that.
I mean, we all are kind of aliens, right?
What